and welcome to all the men and women of the West, and I guess the East, because I'm joined by, of all people, Elanor, who
Hello,
is a
everyone.
longtime fan of Brothers Arda, Girl Next Gondor. I don't know who else you listen to.
Well, there's a podcast. I think there's a podcast called "Keep on Talking." Have you heard that?
No.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
you could say I am a long time talking fan. I think.
probably longer than I am. Have been.
How
Um,
long?
Me? Uh,
Yeah.
First time I read Tolkien story was 11 years old.
Okay.
Apart,
Okay. You're older than
but
me.
but I did not read Lord of the Rings or Silmarillion until I was 26. So
Okay.
it starts when I'm 20. I was 26. So you can't
Okay.
count from 11 years old to, yeah. So it'd be about 8 years now.
Well, me the same.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I read Talking like in 8 or 9 years ago.
Hmm.
I think. Well, I was in
Probably.
college.
Hmm. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Um, but today we're going to be discussing the Feanorians and a bit of a um, I think the first time I really discussed them outside the Silmarillion podcast. And since I talked with Lexi, which is some time ago, my gosh, it's so long ago. But with that discussion, we focused on Feanor and Maethros, who are honestly of this lineage probably mm, the biggest, the most important
Yeah.
of the eldest line of Finwe. Now, um, I'll just do a brief summary. The line of well, Finwë was the first king of the Noldor, and he had, of course, his son from Miriel, his first wife, Fëanor, and then he had his two latter sons through Indis, the his second wife. But his second wife was of the Vanya, so they're blonde of hair. So you have Fingolfin and Finarfin, who are, well, at least Finarfin's blonde, but Fingolfin and Finarfin are different in mood and in nature from Fëanor. And they also share a close bond with the Vanya elves. And the trouble is that Fëanor never takes to his half siblings, or Indis for that matter. And this these problems he has starts from when he's born because his mother gets very bad postpartum and wills herself to perish. Um, those who are familiar with my channel remember I was very harsh with Muriel because I said she did have a responsibility to her son to live on, but she didn't. And of course, you have Finwë who goes on mourning and mourning until he realizes Indis, daughter of Ingwe, the High King of the Vanya, loved him. So now, in the words of Tolkien on page 55 of the hardcover edition I have, it says, "The wedding of his father was not pleasing to Fëanor, and he had no great love for Indis, nor for Fingolfin and Finarfin, her sons. Now, he lives apart from them and marries one of your favorite characters, I believe, Nerdanel,
Yeah.
and has 7 sons. Oof, that is so many. But now I'm going to ask, since I did the intro here. What are your thoughts on Feanor and his relationship with his siblings, or half siblings, I should say?
Hmm. Have you watched that movie, The Truman Show? The Truman
Uh,
Show.
no, people have recommended it to me. I'm gonna have to watch it.
Okay,
Explain it
the
to
the
me.
movie is like this: a man who is living his entire life in reality TV show, and
Mhm.
which is filmed and constructed by producer and broadcast to the world. So the man is living his life in a total lie. So I was wondering that day, if Fëanor has this same kind of feeling that his entire life and all the lives of Elda in Valinor has always been a lie made by Vala. Of course, it's not, but he think maybe it is. If that was true
Mm.
in his mind, then Valinor is like a prison to him. So I think I can sympathize with him in that sense. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I can understand. Um, I think there is truth in what you say. Feanor definitely perceives himself to be kind of shackled, and he seems to regard the Valar more like gatekeepers than protectors.
Yeah.
Um, but there's also the fact that he's the spirit of fire. So um, I think on some level he knows the truth, but he's such a hothead. He does, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just
I know.
bursts out of him. I ironically, I'm of the opinion that I think Lucas took some inspiration from Tolkien's work when it came to his Anakin Skywalker character. In that, I think
Yeah.
Anakin kind of, it's like something bursts out of him, then he kind of his brain doesn't quite catch up because very intelligent man, but his brain, when it finally does catch up, he's already made the mistake, and you
He
know,
can't go back.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. He just makes these mistakes, and you know, um, it just overtakes him.
Yeah.
And I also think Tolkien, though, was inspired by figures in terms of mythology, such as obviously Othin from Norse mythology, who's a great creative fellow, but also a berserker god.
Yeah.
You have Achilles, um, whom the latest adaptation that I know of was really from 2004 with Brad Pitt, who played him perfectly, like from the epic poem. And you have, of course, Heracles, who the best adaptations from the 90s with Kevin Sorbo, who plays him as sometimes a really terrifying force of nature when he gets angry, but then someone who crumbles up when he realizes what he's done. So I think this is the nature of Feanor. He's this archetypal fire, and he's a creative fire, but he's also a destructive one.
Yeah. True. True. I think he um the most important quality of his is that even in the Kingsley, is to he always assert himself and believing what he thinks is right. I think it's in a. I think he always think he was right, and it's when in one of those versions he burned his own son. Like
Hmm.
it's like Amorous or Amorad. I
I
don't
think it's
know.
one.
I don't know. He accidentally burned him.
Yeah,
I think it's that moment he realized that, oh, maybe I fucked up,
yeah.
but I
Maybe
cannot go back.
whoops. Like,
Yeah.
but we've all had oopsie moments, but nothing
Yeah.
quite like putting your son on fire and going,
That's
uh,
unusual.
whoops. And he can't exactly this time go, Fingolfin did it. He can't exactly do that this time because, the Fingolfin's nowhere near him. But it's interesting how unstable he is, really. And it speaks to the understanding of human nature as well that Tolkien has,
Yeah.
in that he understands that there are individuals like this who are hotheads and who are a force of nature, but they either in time come to what's the term in English? See, the English is my second language as well. This is hard for me. They either learn to harness the flames without burning themselves. Um, uh, one, well, okay. Two historic figures I'll mention. One of them would be one popular figure in the West at one time was Saint Peter, hot-tempered, hot-headed, slices a guy's ear off at one point just in a fit of anger, and he's always scolded. But then he learns, let go of the anger and focus that fire to where in a creative way, and becomes one of the great men of history. But you also have the likes of, well, Henri II, the one of the founding kings of England. Well, I say founding, but not. It's sort of. It's complicated, but he is such a force of nature in his anger, and his mother and his friends keep trying to like contain him.
Okay. Yeah.
But he keeps exploding forth. But when he does harness it, he's the greatest lawmaker, lawgiver, the greatest general, the greatest everything in English history at that time. So that's the thing. Like with Feanor, it's more. It's more than he can control and contain and direct in a way. I often think Fingolfin's a lot like him, but Fingolfin, the difference is the middle brother. Fingolfin's in a weird position. He's also the eldest brother because he's the eldest son of Indus. So he's in a weird position. He's the eldest sibling, the eldest son, but he's also the middle son. And Fingolfin is someone with a similar fire, but he took to the warrior's path to harness his flame. Now, most writers would probably say the creative brother, the one who creates, should be the level-headed one, the better one, and the warrior should be the troublemaker. Tolkien switches it.
Yes.
And now I'll turn it to you and ask, what are your thoughts on Fingolfin now?
I don't know. I don't have many thoughts about him. I think he's great.
That's it?
Yeah, he's great.
I think he's the greatest.
That's it. I don't have many thoughts on him, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
You think more about Nerdnell, Feanor, and the Feanorian sons?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. I'll be honest. When I first read the Silmarillion, I was awestruck by Feanor. Like the
you are what? You are what?
Awestruck. I was.
You mean shock?
Emelvi. I was amazed. I was overwhelmed by the grandeur of Feanor. But I'll try to find the exact speech. It's my favorite speech in literature that I've ever seen. And to think it came from an Englishman. I'm joking. I'm French, so I always have to pick on the English. Let me try to find it. I should have marked it out beforehand. Let me see. I should. Let's see. I think it's around page 74. Thereabouts. Nope. It's Why, O people of the Noldor? That speech, which is an amazing speech. I'm not going to
Yeah.
recite the whole thing; it'd take up the entire podcast.
Yeah, I watched your video on analyzing this speech.
Hmm. Okay. Oh, right. You left a comment. I forgot.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I forgot about that video. But I shouldn't say that. But I honestly did. It's been so long since I've been on YouTube. I need to go back. Well, this is my re-intro, I guess. But honestly, I was awestruck by Feanor, but I was even more awestruck by Fingolfin because he doesn't give the same speeches as Feanor, but
Yeah,
his actions speak louder. Like
true.
Feanor loudly, like, draws his sword and threatens to kill him, and Fingolfin just remains quiet
Yeah,
and slips away and just doesn't say anything. But then, when the time comes later to confront Morgoth, he flies into a Feanorian rage and just charges Morgoth and cripples him. Like I
yeah,
remember just going, "Holy cow! This, um, uh, quelle, quelle force, quelle, c'est lui la tempête." That is to say, wow, he is the storm. He is because there's a old proverb about um, a European man where the devil whispers to a European man, "You are no match for the storm. You are nothing." But then the European turns to the devil and says, "You're a fool. I am the storm." And the idea is that there's a storm, that the idea is that men can either be carried off by nature or they can master their own nature and master their fate and project themselves outwards and achieve great things. And the idea here is that Fingolfin is kind of the storm. He masters his inner fire and savages, or violates, I guess would be another term, poor Morgoth, who honestly comes out to try to kill him, but Morgoth gets more than he bargained for. But Morgoth, I think, knew how dangerous Fingolfin could be. So there is that. That's getting a little ahead of ourselves. Just to bring it back. But I wonder if maybe Tolkien esteemed Finarfin the highest, even as I think he liked Feanor the most. I think he liked Feanor the most, but he esteemed Finarfin the highest, like Finarfin as being the greatest in a way.
yes,
Thoughts
yes.
on this?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Yeah.
Because
Although Finofing, he didn't have like a short screen time.
yeah, he doesn't have much of a role.
Yeah.
What's funny about him is he's got a background role, and it is a little interesting because when Feanor draws his sword and threatens not Fingolfin, I mean, Finarfin's in the background kind of looking at this and going,
Yeah.
he's getting scared for Fingolfin. And when Fingolfin walks away, Finarfin's the first one to jump up to him and go, like, "You okay?"
Yeah.
And later, Finarfin is by the side of Fingolfin. I think we have here. I think these two brothers are very close,
True. They are very close.
but I think Finarfin's the wisest of the three.
Yes.
Um, I think he's also the one who doesn't feel himself as mighty as the other two in a way. Like he's not as confident in a way. Like because the other two are majestic, they're kingly, they project power. Finarfin's more muted. But what people forget is he fights in the War of Wrath. So he is a force of nature himself, but we don't see it. and that's the problem. But we get Finarfin, who, when it comes to the attack on Aqualonde, he just says, nope, and goes back home. No.
Yeah, it's difficult for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's like your relatives on the father side attacks your relative on your mother side.
yeah, you're kind of in the
Yeah.
middle.
Yeah.
And on
Well,
top
it's kind of they are all kind of in the middle for the whole house of Finarfin.
mm,
So you have pick sides like Galadriel pick
because
side really
he's got
quickly.
kids who are involved.
Yes.
Yep. Galadriel, she's a troublemaker because she, it's so hard to pin down her actual history.
Yes.
But she also, now most fans will say she's the, well, I've seen people say she's the bestest or she's the most pure. She goes to, we
Maybe
all know
no.
she goes to the Sindarans and then lies her teeth off. She lies her
Yes.
butt off, going, she hides the what really happened. It's not till
Yeah.
everybody, it's not till they find out themselves that they kind of end up, she's forced to tell the truth reluctantly. They have to pull it out of her. But Galadriel is, no, she's a character whom Tolkien really struggled with because, the history. And
Yes.
what surprised me, because I read Lord of the Rings first before Silmarillion, like most people, and what surprised me was just how she's not really into Silmarillion. She's just kind of moving and leaving. What are your thoughts on Galadriel?
Yeah, I think you are right. It depends on which versions you are believe in. You believe in. I think I don't know. She's great, but I mentioned that she picked sides really quickly because when the clean slaying happened, but I think it would be a really cool thing to have Galadriel like fighting Fëanor. It's like I'm done with you. The whole puzzle about my hair.
Ah, yeah, the hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if she gets really angry, it's possible. It's possible for her to like fight Fëanor, in her anger.
Mm.
Mm,
And Fëanor is not the great warrior that he thinks he is, and that a lot of fans
no.
think he is. He's mediocre as far as the Noldor go. His son Maethros, now there's a beast, I think the English would say. He's fearsome.
Yeah.
Fingolfin's Fingolfin's the mightiest of them all. But so now we've got Galadriel, daughter of Finarfin, we mentioned. And we've mentioned Maethros, of course. It's impossible not to mention him when you're discussing Fëanor. So I'll just quickly, I'm going to just quickly look up for the entire list, because there's one or two I always forget about, just to make sure so that I don't miss anyone, because we want to make sure we cover this entire humongous family. And I'm only going to stick to those in this book, because otherwise I'm not going to get into Elrond and whatnot, because that's too much.
That's too much.
Yeah, too many people. Let me just find the image. All right. Let's see. And of course, it's tiny. Well, you have, of course, this one should do. I'll just save the image instead. Just give me one moment, and I will actually bring it up. This way everybody could follow. Let's see if I can. All right. Oh, this is a lovely image. Let me just go present and try to remember how to do this. It's been so long. Here we are. So there we are.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have here Feanor, Kuru Finwe, who got together with redheaded Nerdanel. Lucky him. Redheads are always a gift. We have Maethros. Then we have Maglor, the second son, who's the harper, whom Tolkien kind of hints at what's to come for his fate. Now I'm going to refer back to that speech. Will we,
Okay.
shedding tears into the sea? Feanor talks of this and how he doesn't want this for his people. But this is what happens to his son. Maglor ends up doing that. What do you think of that little seed that's planted in that speech and that blossoms at the end?
What do you mean? What do you mean? His speech like related to Maglor's song, Maglor's fate.
Well, what I mean is, let me find it again. So
he said something. Oh, it's okay. You said first.
Yeah, it's on page 70. Some. Let me. I believe it should be. Let's see. Mist haunting, dropping vain tears in the thankless sea.
Okay, that line, right?
Yeah.
Also, there's a line like in his speech saying that we will sing something like our song, something like that. Our song gonna sing like till the end of Ada.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Where they'll go further than everyone else, and people will hear of them basically. Yeah. Yep.
I think that line is truly related to Maglor's fate because he mentioned the song, right?
He mentions basically that they'll go further than everyone else.
Yes.
And Maglor did go further. He's
Yes.
the last surviving son.
Yeah. Don't you think that this speech kind of like a curse on them, on Feanor's family?
Yeah, it kind of presages.
Yes.
It predicts what's to come, even if Anor doesn't realize it. In a way, it's like a curse.
Yeah.
And you have, of course, Caligorm and Curufin, who are, along with Caranthir, kind of the nasty ones. You wouldn't want to meet them in a dark alley. Although they are protective of their own, such as Fingolfin's daughter Erethel. And you have Amrad and Amras, who, unless I'm very much mistaken, it's been a while since I read Silmarillion. They die in the kinslaying with Doriath and whatnot. So they
no, it's in the third Kingsley.
yeah.
The Syrian.
Okay, so I'm mistaken. You have Fingolfin's sons next, Fingon, and Fingon is, well, no one can criticize him. He's just a fantastic warrior and king. But my only criticism is it's really Maethros who's ruling through Fingon when the time comes. I don't know what you think of that view. Okay. You have Turgon. I'm not gonna lie. I think Turgon's an idiot.
Really? Because
Yeah.
I have a friend who is like really like to a gun.
Oh, I better be careful. Um, I better be careful when I
It's all
say that.
right. It's all right.
I like him. I think he's a nice guy, but I just think he's an idiot. Um, it's just his reign is kind of a disaster. And you have Argon, you have Arathel. Um, well, you have, um, and then you've got the Finarfinians. I must admit, I quite like these guys. Finrod Felagund is my favorite of the Finarfinians. Uh, okay, I have to admit, I really quite like Finrod. Him and Orodreth, his brother. I know this one shows Orodreth here, but he should be up here because he's a son of Finarfin. Angrod and Agnor, I don't, I don't know any. I don't even think about Angrod. Agnor, I don't like, as I've made clear on my channel. And you have Galadriel. Um, Orodreth isn't terribly popular. I don't think he was the best commander, but I think he's tragic. So I feel bad for him. And you have, of course,
Findulas.
Finduilas, who's endlessly tragic, and her baby brother, Arenian Gilgalad, who is beyond awesome and tragic. And yeah, I think that's enough of the younger generations. So, of these, um, I'll actually ask you, who of the Feanorians is your favorite?
Maglo, of course. You see
Maglor.
my yeah. You see my like my photo is him.
Oh, cool.
You
Um,
didn't recognize him, right?
I
My
did.
profile photo. Like in every website and on every account, the
Oh
first
yeah,
thing
it's
I
always
do
him with
is
the heart.
put Maglos put Maglos as my profile photo. Yeah, I love
Hmm.
him.
With good reason. Is it because he of his kindness or his the fact that he's musical?
I think I love him. No, not his kindness. I think I love him because there's possibilities of interpreting him. So it's like talking left us with many things, and it's like filling in the blank, right?
Hmm.
Talking right that he wrote this and he didn't write that, so it's like it's our imagination to fill the blank.
Hmm.
So what happened between this and that? For Magloire especially, I found there is always contradictions in his story. For example, he's merciful, we know that, um, because he's adopting the twins. Also, he said, Tolkien said once said that evil cannot create, since
Oh,
Megalo could create.
yeah.
So that means Megalo indeed was a good guy. He was nice, but on the other hand, he was a murderer. So those two things contradict. So what happened between this and that? I think that's why I love him. This his what's the word? Complexity.
Hmm. He's a murderer, but there's a core of goodness, and he lost it his way at some point due to that
Well,
accursed.
I don't think he lost it totally, because
No, no.
yeah, in
What,
the end of the story, he finally
mm, he does
he
do it.
thought maybe I should do one thing good.
Well, I think with him, it's how do I put it? What I meant was he lost his way, But we have to remember of Tolkien, not all who wander are lost.
True.
And he is lost at the end. But if one looks at it as him simply having to try to find his way back, it might be what, is best. I know he's supposed to wander by the sea, spilling endless tears into the thankless sea, but I kind of think it'd be better if he wandered into the sea in his case, because otherwise he'll disappear eventually, and I don't want Maglor to disappear. I like him. But I like Maethros of the
Yeah,
Feanorian.
I love him too. I have this beautiful artwork here. Look.
Oh, one sec.
Can you see
I'll
that?
just do one thing. I will.
It's
Um,
beautiful. It's him.
yep. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. I love him. I put it on my desk.
Oh, that's very cool. Maethros is the coolest. But he is endlessly brooding and tragic in the end. Maybe that's why I like him. And the Fingolfinians. Any favorites?
I think. How do I pronounce her? Arthadel, right?
Erethdell.
Aradel. Okay. Yeah, I love her when I first time reading the material
I didn't really.
because I was so related to her.
Also a
Yeah,
hothead?
as a female.
So you're also hot-headed.
No, it's not like that. It's like the kind of feeling that he is somewhat confined with
Hmm.
the surrounding.
She's very confined.
Yeah,
Mm,
and she always had this kind of desire to walk her way out or to escape. I think I related to her in that way.
okay. I
Yeah.
like Fingolfin, but of his children, or at least this upper generation that we can see, I'd probably say Idril, if I'm allowed. I
Yeah.
really like Idril. I got a
Yeah,
big
she's great.
soft spot for her. Oh yeah, she's awesome. She's got, well, with how she has built the tunnel and everything. I have a big soft spot for her. Also, because she reminds me of Aeneas, one of my favorite heroes from classical mythology. Um, Aeneas rescued the survivors of Troy and brought them to Italy and to a new home. I really love that story. I don't know if it's ever told out there where you are.
I think it's told, but I maybe not don't heard of it.
Okay, it's okay. There's a lot of people out here who've never even heard of the story, and it's basically our romance of the Three Kingdoms or Journey to the West, and it's like it boggles my mind how people in my country have never even heard of it, and yet you know. Um, but the Finarfinians, I mean, I want to go first here because I really like Finrod. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
it's always going to be
Who
Finrod.
doesn't?
Yeah. How about yourself?
Uh, it's okay. It's okay. Let's see. I don't know. I think he is very interesting to me in the sense of he was trying to travel around the Middle Earth when he came to Middle Earth and met a lot of races like dwarfs and men.
Hmm.
And his sigil, is that right? His sigil
Yep,
is designed by, I think it's designed by the men, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool to have men to design your signal, while others maybe they design their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finrod is a fan favorite for a reason.
Yeah. Also, in his sigil, there is a beacon, and there
Mhm.
is element of fire. I think it's very interesting that the man, the man think he brings that enlightenment to their civilization.
Which, in a way, he does.
True.
He's an opposite, in a way, a mirror image to Meglor, in a
Oh, why do
way.
you say so?
Well, they're both musicians.
Oh yeah,
They,
true.
they both are warriors as well. And but the difference is one is a case where, um, how do I put it? He Well, they're both also trapped by the younger Feanorians, so they're both kind of having to take responsibility for them. But where Felagund succeeds is in sacrificing himself. He has that opportunity for that eucatastrophe, for that moment of sudden turning, that moment of spiritual self-actualization over, I guess, himself and his situation, and he conquers it. Joseph Conrad had an interesting phrase where in Lord Jim, where he uses the phrase at one point when Jim does something amazing, it's he mastered his fate. And this is what Finrod does in the moment where he breaks the chains and kills that wolf. He masters his fate and then meets it.
Yeah.
So Manglor, though, never has a chance to master his fate, and he's mastered by it.
Yes.
And this is ultimately I think, the difference between the Feanorian line and the other two lineages. Feanor is a slave to his fate. He is mastered by it. He is brilliant as all heck, but he's ultimately mastered, and his lineage is mastered by it until Celebrimbor. But if we have another podcast, I'd rather save Celebrimbor for another time.
Okay.
Fingolfin and Finarfin master their fates, but I would argue, and I'm probably going to draw some criticism, I think Erethel was mastered by her fate. She did not have, her and Turgon were crushed by it. Fingon tried to master it, but was butchered by Easterlings and Morgoth and whatnot, tragically. Finarfin's sons, Finrod mastered it. Orodreth gave a good go, but was kind of defeated. Galadriel masters it.
Yeah.
But it was an ear thing. And that but now I'm gonna ask you, with Feanor, what if I was to say he, in the end, is the worst of all the kings of the Noldor?
No, of course no.
Really?
You said no. I think you said the worst king, right?
Of the
I
Noldor.
was Yeah, I was listening to a podcast that day, and there was a talking professor, and he said he once went to a Comic Con, and
Mhm.
he heard someone shouting, "Orodress was the worst king."
Yeah.
No. I don't think there was like this worst king in my opinion. They're all great. Of course, Fëanor was not the worst.
No.
No,
Why is he not the
because
worst?
I love Fëanor because he's very innocent. He's very pure. The word pure, pure.
Pure.
Yes, don't you think? It's
No.
just I was obviously not in the sense he was killing someone. No, in the sense he believes in what he think is right. There is a poem I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line saying uh, describing the flower, the fading flower, and the poet buried them on the earth. And there was a line saying, "They came so pure and shall go pure again." It's a translation, but the main idea is that I came to this world with my personality. I'm going to be myself, living my life no matter what. And when I die, I shall die as who I am, as pure as when I was born. So Fëanor struck me with that vibe.
Okay. I
Mm.
always thought he was impure, and um, he's. I thought he was impure. That his hot temper, his this fire in him darkened, and it basically shattered him in a way, and that it's a case where um, he had the chance to be either Heimdallr or Loki, and he fell into being the Loki in a way. Well, I'm referring to classic Norse mythology with how you have the protective fire of Heimdallr and the evil, wicked, burning fire of Loki. You have these two forces. Now, obviously, Fëanor never goes as evil as Loki in Norse mythology. That he never goes that far. Loki is more like Morgoth, but the yeah, I never thought of him as pure, but maybe there is a side of him that is, in that he was innocent of, wholly unaware of just how much the lies of Morgoth had tainted him. And
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He he thinks he is being himself, but he don't know that he was like manipulated by the Morgoth.
mm, and it kind of reminds me, I shouldn't read so much into it, but um, well, it's just I'm on Substack, so there's a lot of sociological essays there, and some of them are very fascinating. And there's some people who on YouTube and other places keep talking about, well, I'm not a liberal, I'm resisting liberalism, or I don't like this ideology from the 19th century. But then their counterpoints are all coached in the language and in the, how do I put it, the line of thought, like the thread of that very ideology. By it is so wrapped around them, they don't even realize. Sorry, that's the dogs going off. They don't even realize it has that they're thinking in those coach terms.
Yeah.
So when they, because I have some friends who are Americans and Anglo Canadians, and they say, "Well, I'm conservative. I'm not liberal." But the very concept of conservatism is liberalism. It's just the slower version of it. Your entire ideology is wrapped up in it. You
Yeah.
can't have it without that.
Yeah.
Whereas, I'm not interested in those things. So, obviously, my philosophical natures inclines me elsewhere. But this is the sort of thing I think with Fëanor is that he wants to fight Morgoth, but he's become wrapped up in the
Yeah.
lies and philosophy of Morgoth.
Yeah.
So that's where I guess he is innocent in a way of just how tainted he's become. At least that's how I kind of looked at him. But pure is interesting. Um,
Someone called him
mhm.
a little Morgoth.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good. That
Yeah.
that's
True. And
um,
you can finish. I think you can finish the music, the music. You know what I'm saying? The
Mm.
music. You can't complete the music without Melkor. So you can
Mm.
have the history of Noldor without Fëanor. That's the same thing.
Fair. And well, he threw a lot of monkey wrenches into the music of the Ainur with his perversion of the music.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it makes me wonder because would Arda really be as glorious without the evil in it? Is the evil of Morgoth necessary to Arda?
I think so. I think it's necessary.
What's your reasoning?
Because there's a time Ada Vala said to Ilúvatar, they all said this Melkor he was, destroying our music, and the Eru said, let's have him here. He has like bigger part of this, so it's necessary. I think it's necessary.
And of course, it's all steeped in, well, I will say, because we both know it's steeped in Catholic philosophy and
True.
ideas, because that's what how Tolkien was perceiving the world and looking at the world and whatnot. And ironically, it was at one point hard for me to follow his line of thought with it. But as I've gone back to my Catholic roots, I find that his line of thinking is a lot easier to keep track of now. And it's very like, I don't know about you, but I'm Catholic, so I can easily kind of link into his thinking and follow with Morgoth, Satan, and Eru God and whatnot, and follow this thinking. You also see for Catholic thinkers Chesterton's influence, who's I'm just finding out about him and researching him. He's fascinating. And St. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas and many others who influenced Tolkien endlessly. Obviously, he was more well-read than I ever will be, probably. But as for Fëanor, when would you say he fell?
He fell. What do you mean?
Like, when did he cross the line? Like, when did he step from being a force of good? And I will say good because his devices and his work was for the betterment of his fellow Noldor. And we have to bear in mind he did have a close bond with his father-in-law, so he was trying to live up to a secondary father as well, in a way, as well as Finwe. But when did he fall? When did he? Because he had a path set before him. When did he fall from that path and go down a different road? I don't know if this metaphor makes any sense.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Okay. I don't know. Sometimes I worry I'm not making any sense. But he deviates from what is right, I guess you could say. And when do you think he did?
The moment he draw the swords to the Teleri.
Okay.
Yeah, because in Chinese culture we always said that you are the judge people with their action, not their heart. Because if we judge people with their heart, everyone make mistakes because we all think something incorrectly. But it's what we do, right? So when Fëanor killed another elf, there is no turning back. He had no chance to go back to normal, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, because the moment he draws swords to Fingolfin, he just draw the sword. He can't go back. He can say that, okay, I will make peace with my brother. I will take my soul back. And I think that during that time, he had opportunity to go back. But when he actually killed another elf, it's different.
I'm going to disagree.
Yeah. What's
Now,
your opinion?
I will say, though, beforehand, I like your perspective. And I think that's a wise view that the Chinese have. Um, in the West, I think it's, I'm going to try to translate it. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. I think it is in the Bible, where God basically tells people when they say, well, look, this woman, she's an adulteress. She's a sinner. He says, are you to judge her? Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Because, yes, she sinned, but, is it worth killing her for it? No. And it's a lesson in you're not your thoughts. And so long as you have breath, you can repent, atone, and go back in some way. And the thing is, though, I think that with Feanor, his path was set in a way from the moment he drew his sword against Fingolfin. Because I think, what if Fingolfin had talked back? Would he have killed him? I think he would have. And the intent, the desire that is there is, it remains. And it's just this moment got frozen by the Valar, who basically said, okay, you go in that corner, you go in that corner, but it's frozen. They froze the conflict. The problem with freezing conflict is the emotions then keep bubbling. This is called repression. You keep trying to clamp it down, but you can't repress emotions and whatnot. But the problem is also that Feanor is jealous by nature. So I think that it's then that his fall is certain, and that he falls. I don't think there was any saving him from that moment on, because in my view, does he want to be saved? And that's what it becomes about. Does he want to be saved? Now we know from Dagor Dagorath, he does at the end. He wants to be. He is saved at the end. That's the great epic part. He's saved in the end. So there is hope there. As always with Tolkien, there's always hope. But how far does he go? And I like your view that he fell at Aqualonde. I held that view when I first read it. But on my third or fourth read through, I found myself thinking, no. But it happened when he drew his sword on Fingolfin. And part of the reason I think that is also that when I wrote my Crown of Blood anthology story, my prequel to My Brother to the Gemstone, I wrote a character alongside my brother called Padrig. And what he does is he intends to send his younger brother to die in a battlefield, happily, because he hates that brother. And his father tells him, how could you do this? This is my son. How could you do this to your own brother? Am I to be my brother's keeper? Why should I protect him? Let him die. And there's that sibling rivalry. And with Padrig, he later atones, but it just kind of colored my vision. Like, when's the fall? Well, it's when that desire overtakes you and you act on it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Feanor did act on it.
Yeah.
You can't really take it back. I think the problem is when Fingolfin says, all right, we're brothers, we're full brothers here. Like, I'll follow you to the ends of the world. Feanor does not say, okay, we're forgiven. No.
He said, I hear thee.
It's just, gotcha, through clenched teeth. I hear thee. But he doesn't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You know what? In a way, like he acknowledges it, but he doesn't accept it. So there's that. So yeah, I'm gonna disagree. I don't know if I explained myself very well, but
Yeah, I know
um,
what you mean. Yeah.
but now I'll ask in turn: do you think there was anything Fingolfin could have done to have reached Fëanor?
Like what? Like when he draw the sword towards him,
At
he
any
he
point,
he talked back.
or no, at any point, could he have done something
Done something what?
to reach Fëanor? Said something, or was there never going to be a point when these brothers could come together?
Good question.
Hmm.
Let's think. Mm.
It's tough.
Yeah. I think it's not about Fingolfin because Fingolfin was the one to offer the opportunity to reconcile.
Hmm. He
Yeah,
obviously really
he,
loved
he
Fëanor.
offer that opportunity. It's about
Hmm.
Fëanor. It's about him. So yes, they have this kind of opportunity that they can be really real brothers and they can really reconcile. But it's up to Fëanor, and Fingolfin always he think that's the wisest way.
Hmm.
Mm.
And now I'll ask. Now this is going to be a slightly harder concept to grapple with, but from what I recall in my podcast with Lexi, we discussed how. Great, I'm taking my glasses off like Robert. Damn it. Uh, I miss Indie Geek. I miss Robert. We occasionally talked. I miss that. But at what we talked about, Lexi and I, was that there's some parentification that happens where the sons of Maethros kind of start acting like his
Wait,
parents.
wait, wait, wait. Son of Mithras?
Fëanor, sorry, Freudian slip. My
Okay.
apologies. My apologies. Ouch. Ouch. I'm embarrassed here.
You love Mithras too much.
Yeah, too much. Too much. But the sons of Fëanor suffer from parentification. And what this means is they are acting and thinking like they're his parents. The children are made to feel responsible for the parent and have to apologize for him or otherwise just try to um, just, I don't want to say ground, but cover for him,
Yeah.
shield him in a way. And um, now uh, in French culture, in Japanese, Chinese, Korean culture, the parent must apologize for the actions of the child. It's just, or you apologize together. It's just the culture. I know a lot of foreigners find that strange of us, but the father must say, like, listen, my son had a fight with yours. The two boys have to apologize, okay? And I'm really sorry about this. This is just, this is our culture. Um, it's one similarity between French and Asia. It's an oddity. It's a very odd thing. But with Fëanor, it's the son's doing it for the dad. What do you think
Yeah.
of this?
Yeah, I think that it's fascinating to me as well because especially Mithras, he had to, console his father and control his father in some way. There are few people who dare to say no to Fëanor.
Hmm.
Uh, one elf is Northernel. Northernel can
Hmm.
say no to Fëanor in the face,
Wow.
and
But
and Mithras can do that as well. So Mithras once said, "Oh, we should not." burn the ships.
No, he didn't want to. He wanted to send them back.
Yeah, he was like the only one. I think in many scenarios, Mathos had to advise his father in many ways, and had to, as you're saying, uh, apologize for his father to others. Like, I can almost imagine that when Fëanor draw the sword to Fingolfin, and that whole drama happened, and the next day, Meadows went every houses to say, "I'm sorry about my dad. I'm sorry about yesterday. That's all my dad thing. Sorry about that."
I think it'd be him or Maglor who would probably be the ones to
Yeah, they
apologize.
will do it together, but
Yeah.
the Meadows will do the talking.
Yeah. Mathros, though, well, I'll just start with Nerdanel. I think she could say no to him until he just decided, I'm not listening, and went off to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Because there's a rupture that happens. She stays with her father, and she does beg for at least one of the twins because she fears for her youngest children. And he's a cad. I'll just say that. He says, no, they're all mine. Screw you.
Yes, this concept this concept of that all my children are mine to dominate.
Yeah. But do you think I think this is a case where he should have left the twins with her.
I don't know.
It'd be the decent thing to do.
I think since the twins didn't participate that much in the later story, I think it will not make many differences if he does, because
I was looking
because
at
the king, sorry about that, because the second Kingslaying and the third Kingslaying will happen whether the twins were there or not.
Well, my point is more on a personality thing, morally.
Okay.
Like, it'd be the decent thing to do to leave them behind.
No.
Because they're the youngest.
No.
They should come along.
No. I didn't mean that. I mean, yes, it's a decent thing to do if he left the twin with their mother, but Elanor did too many evil things that it can
He can't even ponder it.
It can justify him.
It doesn't even occur to him that, well, I should leave the youngest behind. I don't want any harm to come to them. No, they're mine. I'm taking them.
Yeah.
Screw you. That's basically his thinking. It's sad that he becomes greedy in the way he does.
Yeah.
Well, maybe greed's not the right word. Gluttonous. Like, he's devouring everything around him, like Ungoliant. He's devouring everything, and it's coming it's feeding the flame, the inner appetite, and it's growing and overtaking him.
Because there is an emptiness in his heart. He lost his mother,
his father afterwards.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, like the death of his father and the Silmarillion. Tolkien uses the term the rape of the Silmarills. Yeah, you're right. It does leave a darkness, a hollowness. That's not darkness, hollowness. And he's trying to fill it. But
yeah.
I'm now going to ask. I know my thoughts on this. I believe I made it clear in the podcast. Do you suppose that the sons of Fëanor fear their father by that time?
Yeah, I fear. Yeah, they fear him.
Okay.
They fear that their father would do something bad because he did before. And they fear that in a way he was too, you know, how can I say this? They feel him. They feared him as he was this kind of authority figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they also feared him in the way they fear that he would do something bad
Hmm.
in the future because he did before.
Hmm. It's interesting that they feel responsible for him, like he's their child, but they also are terrified of him because he's a force of nature. And um, you then have on, how do I put it? On his end, um, it's in particular interesting that a warrior like Mathros would also fear him. But they
Mm,
all jump up to make that foolish oath, um, which destroys them. But it's, um, yeah, I agree. They're definitely terrified of him and they're trying to mitigate his damage, the damage he's inflicting upon the world around him.
yeah.
And it's, you definitely see how his sanity starts to crack when he starts laughing as one Fey, as the English edition says, which is to laugh madly. Like it's interesting that a lot of stories in animation and movies have characters laughing madly at some point. It's the villain, but
Not always.
it never really seems as terrifying as when Feanor does it, because you've seen him go from a child to a good person to into a steadily madder and more monstrous person, and now he's a cackling loon who is setting fire to his people's only hope. He turns his back on his people, and this is where I just think there's something terrifying about him when you
Yeah,
read.
sure.
But they're looking at a lot of um, us Celts, that is to say, people of Ireland, Scotland, and France. We are endowed with a particular temper to us, a temperament that um, can either be similar to Feanor or similar to, I guess you could say, Gimli. And these are options as individuals. And uh, one fear I've seen when talking with other people in French and from who are Irish is to end up like Feanor, I guess. That's always the fear, to be mastered by your anger and your passion, because we are very passionate people. And the the thing is, in French literature, there's Roland, there's Gauvin, there's Charlemagne, there's these knights and these kings and these emperors who are supposed to be these. They have anger, but they master it and turn it into honor and whatnot. I guess one could say it's either Cao Cao
Yeah,
um, or a Zhou Yu type figure, where you're pure and you're kind and you care for your subordinates and you're honorable. These are the kind of choices a lot of us are faced with, and not. It's one of those things which we all struggle with. At least those of us who are Celtic, and it's never a fun battle. But Feanor, well, I keep repeating myself. He's devoured by the flame, and it's something that I think probably amuses Morgoth, because Morgoth would be pleased at the fact that Feanor's no longer in the picture. But Morgoth's too busy being afraid of Turgon, though, to really take too much notice. At least it's my theory.
Yeah.
Because he has a sense that Turgon will give rise to something that will destroy him.
Yes.
But I haven't I can't remember, but well, I believe my favorite Valar is Ulmo, but which one of the Valar is your favorite?
That's the thing. I don't know. I don't really have a preference, I think.
Too busy liking the Feanorians.
No. No, I don't think them too much because in my opinion they are not, well, they are not, in a sense they are not like a full character. They are more like a surrounding of this world.
Okay, so they're more
But
background.
yeah. They're sort of like this non-human non-human figure around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I love Niana. I love
Mm.
Niana, and I like Uomo. Yeah, I like him as well. I like Namo as well because I think it's cool to be, the god of death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Niana, I like it. I like her in the sense she was the teacher of Gandalf.
Mm.
Teach him, teach
Ah,
him the
this.
mercy.
I really like Aloran.
Yeah, yeah. I love him. I love this connection between he as a student and she was his teacher.
Mentor.
Yeah,
Aloran's just one of the best characters.
yeah.
And I'm reading the Lord of the Rings with Matt from Dork Lords, and
What
uh,
you are reading? What?
Lord of the Rings for a book club with
Okay.
Matt, and it's just Gandalf's such a joy.
Yeah. Gandalf once mentioned Fëanor in the third book. You know that?
Yep.
Yeah. I think
And
that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
Tolkien did a great job creating this link because The Hobbit was what he wrote for kids and his kids.
Yes.
And the Silmarillion he also wrote for them, but it began with tales for his wife from the Tale of
Yes.
Eowendel, and it expanded, as you know. But what's interesting is that Lord of the Rings was technically commissioned by the publisher. And what happened is that he was supposed to write The Hobbit 2, The Electric
Yeah.
Boogaloo. Um, it wasn't really going to be titled The Electric Boogaloo. I just threw that one in there. But he then wanted to write a great romance, and he blew it up into that. So it's interesting how the Silmarillion and the Lord of the Rings intersected in that way. Do you, now I'll ask you one thing that Dan had once said,
Okay.
and Dan said that the Feanor part, like when Feanor dies as a character, or even I think he said when Fingolfin dies, from the moment the Eldar journey west to Amon to when Fingolfin dies, this should really be called the Epic of Feanor. And because Feanor is really the main character of this section. And the next part of the story is pretty much concerns, I believe, Beren and Luthien. So that Dan said that as he's been reading this Silmarillion, it seems like it's a division of epics. So you have the Epic of Feanor, Beren and Luthien, Children of Húrin, the Fall of Gondolin, the War of Wrath, and of course, the Second Age, which can be divided into subsections as well. I don't know what you think of how Daniel categorized it.
It makes sense, but I would say that it's very cohesive as well, in the sense all the story, all the legends are connected with each
Mm,
other, and you can find them. You can find connecting details in
yep.
all the stories. Yeah, because for me, it's a very important thing, and it's a very enjoyable thing for me to find all those connections,
Mm,
because that's where the story sparks,
yeah.
I think.
Uh, I love that stuff as
Well,
well.
with there's an example. For
Mm,
example, when we first read the Lord of the Rings, we just pass through all the background material. And when we read the Silmarillion, and then we reread the Lord of Rings, and when we get to the point, the Fellowship you know, went through the Moria, and we saw the marks on the Moria store, and we shout, "Oh, I know this!"
yeah,
And
it's
for me, for me personally, that's really a very enjoyable thing, to have
it,
so many things connecting
mm,
to the first age.
agreed. When I first read the Lord of the Rings, I went, okay, well, I'm really liking the world building because I had a long history of reading fantasy fiction. So I was going, I'm liking this, I'm liking this. But then when reading the Silmarillion and then going back to Lord of the Rings, I kind of went, oh, all the threads, all the fragments, all the little details. Like you said, it's just like, oh, I know this.
Yeah,
You
it's
just,
like
it-
if you
it's like,
read, yeah,
oh, sorry. It's like listening to music, like in your on YouTube or on uh, I'm gonna date myself because I'm from the
Spotify,
'90s.
something
I was
like
gonna
that.
say the Walkman.
Okay.
I'm very old, so um, it's a case where it's like listening to something. Like when I first heard a bit of classical music, it was just on one of those old. It was on a cassette. It was very old. No, it wasn't a cassette. It was must have been the third grade. Right, third grade. It was in a CD. But what it sounded like there, it was just some pastoral symphony by Beethoven. Then there was the first time I heard a symphony. It was nothing like you know,
Yeah.
and like a CD or a Walkman or even vinyl. It's nothing like that. When you hear that music in person, it overwhelms. I
Yeah.
remember I went with my best friend and he broke down sobbing, and he just broke down next to me, and I was a little concerned. I nearly did, but I didn't, thankfully. But he completely broke down, and it was Brahms' Seventh Symphony and Beethoven, the Fifth Symphony. So these are very overwhelming pieces. And then there's the first time you hear the ninth, the greatest music. You just you can't not be overwhelmed by that. But I think that's what it's also like. You are, um, or even this is a description by St. Paul. Uh, Man's life is a cup of water, but you then realize the whole world, the greater world, is an entire ocean. And this is what Lord of the Rings, like these little moments, these are cups of water. When you read the
Yeah.
Silmarillion,
True.
it's an ocean.
Yeah.
So that sorry, I shouldn't have spoken over you
Yeah,
there.
it makes sense. And I think there's I think reading the Lord of the Rings is like going through a museum of Middle Earth. But if you read the Silmarillion, it's like you actually lived there
Mm,
for
and
like 1 year.
yeah,
It changed your concept and many perspectives of reading the Middle Earth.
mm, agreed. I remember there was a. I remember when I was gonna read Conan by Robert E. Howard. I remember someone advising me, don't start with Conan. Start with Kull, which is basically like the Silmarillion almost. And I went, why would I start with the prequel when, you know, he's, with this with Tolkien, you have to start with Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, then go back for Silmarillion. Why would I do the journey differently? And he said, well, it's just with Howard, you do it differently. You don't.
Yeah.
But he said, but you're going to miss half the stuff in Conan.
Yeah.
But the Kull stories are written much simpler. So, I read through the Kull stuff, which some of it was great, some of it was terrible. Most of it was quite good. But then when I got to the Conan stories, I was overwhelmed by their beauty. And I went, oh, now I understand. And, I'm reading through them and I'm going, that's what that's a reference to. Howard does something similar. But all I can say is if people just want to skip everything and just jump straight to Hour of the Dragon, they could, which is Howard's Lord of the Rings. You could. It's his greatest story. But Tolkien, and you can't start with the Silmarillion. It's just impossible for most people. Some might be able to. I don't know. But any closing thoughts on that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I have one question for you since we mentioned Fëanor. Do you think Fëanor's children did what they do because of the fear for his father or the love for their father?
You mean before he died?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just pondering this one. That's a good question. You saved the best one for last. I think it varies from Feanorian to Feanorian. I think they're all afraid of him, terrified. But I think, for the most part, it's the two intermingled together. For example, I think Maglor, it might be more fear. I think that when it came time to swearing the oath, they were overwhelmed by emotion. And I don't think it was fear. I think it was they were overtaken over their better judgment and they wanted to show their support for their father. But afterwards, I would say Maglor, it's fear. Celegorm and Curufin and Caranthir. I might sound odd, but I think love. But I also think there's a slight bit of greed in there. They want to cut, but they also do love their father. So there's that Amrod and Amrys fear.
Yeah, of course.
They're the youngest. And their father's really flying off the handle. Maethros is the hard one, in my opinion, to predict. But I'd say it's probably... We got to bear in mind, he loses his grandfather. And Maethros is one of them that's very close to the Fingolfinians. Fingon in particular. They're best friends. And I think... I think that Maethros is motivated by a love for his father and fear of him, but also fear for him and for what he might do to the younger brothers if Maethros is not there. So I think there's a complex series of reasons behind each of them. And this is Tolkien's gift. He intermingles these complex reasons and thoughts into each character with just a few sentences sometimes.
Yes. Yeah, good point.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it answered my question.
Okay. Any other closing thoughts?
Not much.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in that case, I'll ask, where can people find you?
Well, people can find me on my Instagram.
Mhm.
Elanor. What's my Instagram? I have to look it up.
Um,
Let's see.
yeah, and I'll put it in the description.
Okay. You know. Okay. Okay. You can find me on my Instagram, Elanor Simi.
Mm.
Okay. So
Where you post up some pretty impressive
yeah,
Tolkien art and possessions and whatnot. It's pretty cool.
yeah, it's just they're just my daily life with talking. It's not
Mm.
my art. It's
Yeah,
just daily life.
yeah,
I'm talking fan, so I do
it's merch,
things.
is what I
Yeah,
meant. Yeah, it's sorry, I'm starting to get tired.
it's
It's
okay.
merch, and stuff you find at conventions and whatnot. I've seen it. It's just, I just think it's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you're welcome. Um, and you also, well, there's also some Greek history stuff, so I thought that was neat. So there's all sorts of stuff on your Instagram, which is pretty darn cool. So I'll put that in the link in the description and encourage people to go follow you there. Um, for myself, mm, I don't expect many people to go over to what I'm going to put in the description. I'm going to put in my Royal Road account so that people can uh, read my web novels and read what my attempt at writing a Silmarillion. Uh, and we'll see if people take an interest in that. But most of all, everyone, do please read the Silmarillion. It's just a joy. I briefly skimmed through it. Well, I say briefly, more like I read 3 chapters before this, and I just got to get back to reading it. It's just I just finished Redwall, and I'm reading a bunch of other stuff. But anyways, do take care, everyone. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and to check out Eleanor's Instagram. And toodles.